All right, you want to talk about your...
I would love to, but look. Help me.
Oh, it's not that bad.
Okay. Hey, it's Megan.
And Sue,
the Spine Breakers. And today we are going to be doing a December 2020 wrap-up because good riddance 2020.
Yes. And we're going to be drinking a vegan beer.
Oh, spurted a little bit. You ever have that problem? So this is a plant-based double IPA with mango and palm sugar. And it is 100% vegan, all natural.
I don't know how unique it is for a beer to be vegan. I know some beers have lactose in them, and someone did tell us during our live show that some beers are, they use fish bladders in the...
Yeah, which I did not know until they let us know that.
So, I don't know. This one doesn't use any animal products, though, so I thought I'd try it.
Yeah, and it is from Stillwater. And I'm not sure if I showed the can or not. So there's the can. My tall girl pillow is getting smooshy. There we go.
I like it.
It's pretty tasty.
Yeah. It's very, it says it's mango and has palm sugar, and it's definitely fruity and kind of sweet.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's much more like, it's definitely a tropical IPA.
It has a little bit of an orange juice vibe.
It really does.
Yeah, it also has like sediment
chunky
in it. It's a little chunky. But it's tasty.
It is tasty. How many books did you read in December?
9. I finished 9 books.
Damn, girl.
But several of them were audiobooks.
Still awesome.
So, yeah.
I finished 2. So, and they were both physical books. I didn't listen to any audiobooks, unfortunately. So why don't you go a couple times?
Okay. Unfortunately, I had mostly a pretty mediocre reading month, but the first book I finished was Picnic on Paradise by Joanna Russ. Which is a classic sci-fi novel set on a planet called Paradise. And this military woman named Alex is dropped on this planet and given the mission of getting this group of people across the planet to this safe base. And the planet, despite its name, is actually quite harrowing. And also there's people like trying to kill them. So
lots of fun.
Lots of fun. It kind of does that thing that I've noticed a lot of vintage sci-fi does, where it just like drops you into the situation and doesn't give you a lot of context. And so I kind of didn't fully understand what was going on or why they were... there was some sort of war happening, I knew that, but you don't really get a whole lot of background on like who these people are or why they're on this planet, why they're at war, etc. But I did appreciate that this was published in the 60s, I think, 68. Alex is kind of the antithesis of what women tend to be depicted as in sci-fi novels written by men. Like, she's this hardened warrior who she's described as not really being conventionally attractive. And so I did appreciate that and the feminism of the novel. But the story itself, I was kind of about.
Meh.
So I gave it 3 stars. The next book I finished was an audiobook called If I Never Met You. It's by Mhairi McFarlane, and it was read by Sarah Novak, which I went to school with a girl named Sarah Novak, but it was not her. I'm trying to even remember exactly what it was about because it didn't stick with me real great. But it's about a woman who's a lawyer, because for some reason romance novels are always about lawyers. And she has her boyfriend of like 18 years, they've been together for a very long time, like her entire adult life.
Wow.
Has just dumped her.
Wow.
And they also happen to work at the same law firm. So that's also an awkward and shitty situation for her. There's another guy there named Jamie who is kind of known as like a playboy, and he's trying to make partner at the law firm, and so they hatch this plan to pretend that they're dating.
Okay.
So that he can because she's kind of known as being like, she's well liked by the partners and thought of as like kind of a good girl, I guess. So he can improve his reputation. And she can make her ex jealous, basically. So they decide to pretend date, and then, as you would imagine, it kind of turns into more than that. But the book, I would say, was not even mainly focused on the romance aspect. It's kind of more focused on her like figuring out who she is, which was nice, I guess, but I don't know, I just wasn't that into it.
You weren't vibing it.
No, and I kind of was disappointed at the end because, first of all, there was no sexy times in it, which, like,
why else would you read romance?
Exactly. And then also, like, her law firm is kind of atrocious. The people are, like, really sexist and just an awful people. And then at the end, I kind of was expecting her to be like, fuck all of you, I'm out of here. But instead, she was like, gonna apply for a promotion. And I was like, I don't know. So I wasn't that into it. I also gave it 3 stars because it was all right.
That's fair. Why don't you go one more time before I go?
Okay. So then I listened to another romance novel called Meet Cute, written by Helena Hunting and read by Holly Warren and Teddy Hamilton. And this one is also about a lawyer. 2 lawyers, again.
Trend.
These 2 people knew each other in college. They were competitive towards each other in their law degree. And she thinks that he screwed her over to get top in the class.
Okay.
And so she's not a fan of his.
Okay.
She was a fan of him because he was a child actor and was like in her favorite show. But anyway, that's kind of like tangential to the whole story. I don't even really understand why they necessarily did that. Several years later, after they've graduated, he shows up in her law office looking for help because his parents have just died in a car accident and he now has custody of his 13-year-old daughter, and so he needs legal help, but also his aunt is like trying to sue for custody, and it's like a big thing.
Okay.
So then she kind of becomes close with his sister, and also, romance ensues. And again, I thought this was just very mediocre. Wasn't really that into it. I didn't care that much. I didn't get very invested in their relationship. I don't have that much to say about it because it was just kind of meh.
Seems like there was a lot going on and like none of it was really like well done.
Yeah, kind of. And it just, I was like, why is there the child actor thing? It was weird. And then his aunt is like such a raging bitch. It's just like, what the fuck?
What's your fucking problem?
Yeah. So, it was fine. It was fine. 3 stars again.
Well, the first book that I finished was actually a book that Sue picked out for me to read as part of our Ijiri readathon. And it was The Zombie Autopsies, Secret Notebooks from the Apocalypse by Stephen C. Schlotzman, MD.
And the author retweeted her.
Dude, the author
Goodreads
retweeted
review.
my Goodreads review. That was crazy.
Dr. Schlotzman himself.
Thanks, bud. So this is really fun. This is a, like, obviously, I don't know, it's not really satirical, but it's like fake journals from a physician who, during the zombie apocalypse, is trying to figure out the fuck is happening by doing autopsies on zombies at various different stages of their zombieism to basically try to understand how it affects the human body and can we come up with an antidote for it.
Sounds cool.
It's really cool.
I'd like to read it.
It's really fun. You're welcome to borrow it. But yeah, it's like journal entries mixed with like highly confidential governmental memos. And there's like illustrations periodically because they had like a science illustrator come in and like draw the zombies during, in the book, not probably not in real life, but draw the zombies in like various states of decomposition. But this was very fun to read because I love zombie stuff, and this was kind of different. Also, pretty sure the author is like legitimately an MD doctor, which is fun.
Says he is.
And also, like, I love me an unreliable narrator. So
I think my battery's about to die.
Gotta plug that bitch in. So yeah, I enjoyed this. I think it was super fun. Obviously, it wasn't anything
groundbreaking.
It's a zombie movie or zombie book, not a movie. It's a zombie book, but it was a lot of fun. And like I said, I love me an unreliable narrator. So I think I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I can't remember. I did. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars.
So the next book I finished was another mediocre romance book. on audio.
Wow.
It was an audiobook. It was In Holidaze by Christina Lauren, read by Patty Murin. And this is basically Groundhog's Day, but Christmas.
Okay.
It's this woman, she's going to her family, or it's like family friends cabin. They come together every year for Christmas, the two families, and celebrate Christmas together. And she finds out at the end of the trip that the owners are going to sell it.
Oh.
And that's upsetting. She also has had a massive crush on, I don't remember his name, Andrew, I think, who's, one of the family friends.
Right.
But she ends up making out with his brother during the trip, and she massively regrets that. And then on the way home to the airplane, she wishes that she would know how to be happy. And then...
Oh, shit. Groundhog Day.
Start time loop, where she keeps reliving this trip. And when she kind of does fuck something up, she'll restart.
Okay.
But she really doesn't even live it that many times. But again, it was okay. I just wasn't, again, super invested in their relationship. I also totally thought that it was going to go a different way. And I feel like it would have been more interesting if it had gone that way.
Fair.
And I felt like she put this guy Andrew on a pedestal, and that never changed. It was and he is perfect.
Baby, he's a straight man. No, he's not.
And then, what was the other thing? Also, I don't know, the family dynamic just weirded me out a little. I don't know.
In what way?
They weren't related in any way.
Incestuous type? Or too close?
Too close. They weren't like I said, they were not related. Their parents were best friends.
Okay.
They had grown up together and all of that, but they were not related in any way.
That's right. I remember us talking about
But just the relationship between them seemed like they were cousins,
That's weird.
And so it just, I don't know, it weirded me out a little, even though I know that there's really nothing wrong with it. I guess it would almost be the same as if you fell in love with your childhood best friend or something. But it's just the fact that their families, their whole families were so close.
I don't think I want to be in a relationship with somebody who also had a close relationship with my family. If they had a close relationship, independent of me, if they had a close relationship with my parents, that'd be weird.
I don't know, which, maybe I was just being a little silly there, but it just...
Nah, I don't think
I didn't find it super romantic. I was kind of it's like kissing your cousin.
Also, if you've seen me during my awkward phase, I probably don't want to have a romantic relationship with you.
So I was, again, not super into that. I gave it 3 stars because, again, it was just all right. And then speaking of kissing cousins.
Oh, God, here we go.
Next, I finished Touch Not the Cat by Mhairi Stewart. And this is about a young woman named Briony, I guess is how you pronounce that. I don't know.
It's a fun name.
She's had ESP her entire life. And it's something that runs in her family. She's always heard the voice of this man. I mean, when she was a child, he was also a child. It wasn't some It wasn't some grown man talking to her as a child.
Okay. Makes sense.
But she's always heard the voice of this guy, and eventually she's kind of thought of him as her lover.
Okay.
She loves him, but she doesn't know who he is. But she assumes that he's one of her cousins. And she's totally fine with that. And this book is set in the 1970s, which I'm it was also written in this, or published in the 70s, I believe. But I'm was that still a thing in the 70s?
Because I know it was a thing in the 16, 17,
Right.
1800s. If you got a distant cousin, you got to get married, you call your cousin, he takes care of it.
Yeah, but she was from a rich family, so maybe it was different. Maybe
preserve the bloodlines.
Maybe I just don't understand rich people. But yeah, she totally thought that this guy was her cousin, and that was A-okay. Nobody gave a fuck.
That's
that
real
she
weird.
Was planning on marrying her cousin. Although I don't know how close of a cousin she thought it was, but anyway.
Still weird.
This guy, she gets a ESP message saying that her father is in trouble and she needs to come home. And she does, and unfortunately it's too late. He has died in a hit and run accident. So the book is kind of her trying to figure out what's going on. Also, they have this manor called Ashley. It's kind of what's going to happen with it. It's not in great shape. But it almost seems like she doesn't care that much. Like she's not really trying to figure out, and she just kind of like stumbles upon these things. And then she finds out who the man is, which isn't who she thought it was, but is still someone who's related to her, though more distantly.
Okay. This sounds like a lot of drama.
I mean, it was, but it was still kind of boring.
Oh, bummer.
You know?
If it's going to be that dramatic, like you would want it to be dramatic.
Right.
Okay.
And it wasn't till like the very end that things like kind of picked up. Yeah, I was kind of disappointed. I bought it because the title was funny.
It's a great title.
Also, I did learn that Touch Not the Cat is from the clan, Scottish clan.
You said the clan, and I instantly, like, my asshole puckered, and I got nervous.
There's a Scottish clan called the McPherson, maybe? I don't remember if that's correct, but their motto is Touch Not the Cat, but with a glove. But otherwise, again, kind of a mediocre read. 3 stars.
Very big bummer. Yeah. You want to go one more time before I go?
Sure. Gonna be another bummer.
Oh, man.
I read this for my book club. Otherwise, honestly, it's not something I would have chosen.
Not our book club, though.
No.
Okay. I call it our book club. It's our book club.
All right.
I started it, but it's ours.
But I read The Authenticity Project by Claire Pooley. This is about different people who find this notebook that was started by this old man. He's like in his 80s. Well, I think he says he's 79, but you find out later that he's actually in his 80s because he's a big fucking liar.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit.
But this guy, old man Julian, starts this notebook that he calls The Authenticity Project, where he kind of like writes out his regrets in life. He's regrets how he treated his wife. He was like a famous artist, and he took her for granted. He cheated on her all the time. Blah, 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 piece of shit. And
right, that sounds about right.
He leaves it in this cafe called Monica's Cafe. Monica herself finds it, and then she writes in it about what she wants in life, and then it kind of travels through a few people, and they end up like coming together and helping each other and etc. But I felt like all these people were just archetypes. They weren't like real
actual characters.
It was just, I want a person that's like this. I want a person that's like this.
Okay.
You know, so there was really not much depth to their characters. Also, I fucking hated Julian. He was such a piece of shit. And I was like, spoiler alert, he dies at the end, and I laughed.
That's a lot. Like, you have to be bad for Susan to not like you. That's rough.
I hated that guy, and
Wow.
you're definitely like not supposed to hate him. He's like one of the friends. They like come together and make him feel better and blah, and I'm like, fuck that old man.
Fuck him. Push him down some stairs.
Exactly. Like, I despised him. And then the other characters, I didn't really feel one way or the other about. And the writing was like not the best. So I gave it 2 stars. Did not like it. It did spur a very good discussion in our book club, though. So I will say that.
Okay. That's nice. That's a good thing.
But probably that's more because my book club has like 3 different counselors in it. And so they're like, let's talk about authenticity.
I feel targeted by your comment, but like, it's also really true.
This beer is very sedimentary.
Oh God, it's super sedimentary.
Like there's
sedimentary. It is very sedimentary.
Yeah, it's like got a lot of gunk on the bottom, but
yeah,
still tastes pretty good.
I'm gonna disregard the target. I feel.
I didn't say it was a bad thing, but I'm just saying.
I bought my brother's. So my niece, my brother's daughter, a book about feelings. And my brother was like, we're Nashes. We just bury our feelings away and we let that trauma out later in unhealthy ways. And I was like, your sister's a counselor. So like, if it kills me, your kids are going to be emotionally well adjusted. So
yeah.
Sorry. So my second and final read for December 2020, and I guess just for 2020 in general, was Circe by Madeline Miller, which is a retelling of the story of the goddess Circe, or the witch Circe, depending on how you look at it, in the story of Odysseus, but it's from Circe's point of view. And so I fucking loved this book. I gave it 5 stars. It was so good. Circe is such an incredible character. She is someone who is, I think, consistently stymied by the society that she grew up in, and she doesn't necessarily realize her own power until she is forced to confront it. And then at that point, she becomes this like chaotic force for good. But yeah, like it was just such an incredible book, and Circe was so human and so like relatable for being like a mythological goddess character. Madeline Miller did like an incredible, stellar job with this book. I cannot talk highly enough about it. I love it. Also, I am a non-theistic neo-pagan, so like in the history of like witchcraft, Circe is highly revered because she's kind of like the mother of herbalism in mythology.
Interesting.
Which like the mother of, I mean, she's an ancestor of herbalism. So I wouldn't say she's the mother of, because she's like a white Grecian goddess, and herbalism's been a thing for like millennia.
Right.
But she's like a well-known figure of that, and so in that community, she's, I think, pretty highly revered. So yeah, it was a really great book. I really liked it. I love mythological retellings, especially if they are from a feminist perspective, and this definitely was. So 5 out of 5 stars. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Highly recommend it.
Awesome. All right, I got 3 more books. Try to be quick. Next, I read The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin, and this is set on a planet known as Winter, so it's cold and awful there. This planet is my hell.
Yeah.
It's winter all the time, and the inhabitants there are essentially genderless. They can choose, or maybe like sexless might be a better way to put it. And during reproduction, which they once a month, I think they go into what they call kimmering, where they pair up and
their active mating phase. Right.
And they can then choose which sex they want to be during their reproduction. So everybody is capable of bearing children.
That's interesting.
We're following this human man who is, well, I mean, the inhabitants of the planet are
humanoid,
also
at least, right?
Human, I think, but we're following this man who is an emissary on this planet, representing this galactic organization of planets, and he's trying to get them to join this organization to, you know, join their like trade and cooperation and things like that. And he finds some resistance. And he's also, it's kind of funny because they think he's a pervert.
Because he is always male.
Yeah, his sex organs are on the outside of his body at all times.
Always.
So to them, it's like he's always ready to fuck.
And he's a pervert.
And that means he's a perv.
Which, I mean, not too far off for human males, really.
I ended up really liking this. It is a little dense at the beginning, but I liked the second part of it a lot. And I really liked the relationship. This emissary, I think was his name, forms a close relationship with another person on the planet, and we do get that person's perspective in the book as well. I really liked their relationship, and, you know, how they were very different from one another, but kind of found this commonality too. I feel like I'm making this gesture a lot today, and I don't know why, but they kind of came together and to reach a common goal. She brings up a lot of really interesting ideas about a society that doesn't think sex or gender is important, because when they're not in kimmering, they don't care about sex.
Right.
They don't think about it. They don't want it. It's not a thing in their society. She has a lot of really interesting thoughts on what a society like that would be like. Some of them positive and some negative.
Yeah.
I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I do think, as always, like Ursula K. Le Guin is like a kind of heavy-handed with her messages, and I think that was kind of true in this book as well, but maybe not as much as in some of her other stuff. But I liked it.
I haven't finished it yet.
And
What
then
else you got, girl?
next, I read The Silence of the Lambs by Thomas Harris, which probably needs no explanation. But
What did you think?
In case you haven't heard of it, it's the second book in the Hannibal Lecter series, and in this one, this young woman, she's still in training to become an FBI agent, and she is asked to go speak to Dr. Hannibal Lecter, to see if he will speak to her because they have not had luck with other people. She does.
Yep.
She does, and he takes a liking to her, and
He does.
speak to her.
Yep.
And then there's also a case of a serial killer who's known as Buffalo Bill, who kidnaps women and
Skins them.
Hannibal Lecter kind of assists in that.
Yeah, he
in his way.
Manipulatively, like
Like he knows who it is from the start.
yeah, he knows who it is.
But he won't tell anyone, but he gives hints.
Right. So he's a shit about it the entire way. Right.
And I actually loved this book. Like,
Did you love it?
Way more than I was expecting to, which it has been many years since I've seen this movie, so the plot wasn't fresh in my mind at all. So that probably helped that there were things that were surprises to me because I did not remember exactly what happened in the movie. And this one has a lot more Hannibal Lecter than Red Dragon did. He's like kind of barely in Red Dragon. And I think that was a plus. Like,
Right.
you can't help but love Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed it, and I did like that, I think you mentioned this when you had read it, that the author does talk about, like, the issues that Clarice faces as a woman in this, like, very male-dominated workforce. He also makes it very clear that Buffalo Bill is not transgender. So I thought that was nice that he did say,
He didn't like pathologize being transgender.
right, and it's made clear in the book that like this is would not be typical behavior for a
Of
transgender
someone who
person.
is transgender. Right.
So I did think that was nice. I do think Thomas Harris can kind of fall into the like people with deformities are bad
Yeah.
trope, especially in Red Dragon. And then you find out, I don't remember if that's mentioned in Red Dragon, but you find out in this book that Hannibal Lecter has 6 fingers on one hand. So
I didn't even think about that.
but for the most part, he does all right.
Yeah. Yeah. I especially felt like his portrayal of women was good. Like, I appreciated how Thomas Harris wrote Clarice Starling and how, like,
It almost made up for the sexist joke in the first book that still haunts me to this day.
Yeah, no, that's awful.
It's the worst joke I've ever heard.
It's the worst thing ever. So I think, like, Thomas Harris did some good things in this book. Like I said, I haven't read Red Dragon.
Yeah.
That joke, though, is the
joke
fucking
was
worst.
like an in passing thing. It wasn't like one of the characters said it or anything.
Okay.
It was like he overheard it, but I'm like, why did you even need
Don't
to put that
include
in
it.
there?
Don't
it was
include
like
it.
it literally haunts my dreams.
That's awful.
I gave it 4.5 stars.
Wow.
Like I really loved it.
Wow.
Like so much more than I was expecting to. So yeah, loved that. And then the last book I finished was another audiobook, and it was Unbury Carol by Josh Malerman.
Oh, what'd you think of that one?
It doesn't list the narrator, so I don't know who narrated it. But
I kind of wanted to read that, but now I'm gonna. What did you think?
well, this is like a Western meets fantasy meets horror a little. It's about this woman named Carol who she has this condition where she will basically fall into comas, but they're so, like, her vitals are so low that if you're not paying very close attention, you will think she is dead.
Oh.
And so her husband knows about this, but she falls into one of these comas, and we find out that he is upset that she is like kind of more powerful than him, and she has more money than him, and blah blah blah. And so he is conspired with this other person to say she's dead and bury her. But one of her exes from the past, who is now like a famous outlaw, hears of her death and knows that something's fishy because he knows about her condition, and so he's coming to try to stop them. And this is set in like the 1800s during the Wild West times, and I was pretty underwhelmed. I wasn't that into it.
That's a bummer.
It definitely seemed like something Neil Gaiman would have written. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it was hard not to compare it to Bird Box, which I absolutely loved, and
I
it's
adored Bird Box.
extremely different from this book. This book did not hold a candle to Bird Box, in my opinion. It's one of those things where it almost read like a children's book, except it had adult content. You know, and that's how I feel about Neil Gaiman too. Is a lot of his books, like some of his books are for children, but even the ones that aren't
read like children
feel like they're for children. And I think it's maybe just because they have kind of a fairy tale theme. It was just, again, another just kind of okay read for me. 3 stars.
That's a bummer. Is that all of the books?
That's all.
Okay.
That's all I've
read a lot in December.
I did. I listened to a lot of audiobooks. I didn't feel like I read that much. Oh my gosh, Sasha. Fucking cute as hell. Murphy's like, what about me?
You're very cute too, buddy.
Thankfully, these two kind of saved
the day.
the month for me, so I really liked both of these. The rest of them were pretty mediocre, unfortunately.
Yeah, I had a pretty decent reading month. I mean, as far as quality, as far as quantity, not so much. I only read 2 books. I started, I have 3 books started.
I have a lot started right now, too. I am trying to finish If You Gotta Read It 2020, just because I was, like, so close, and I was already partway through one of the books. I have 2 books left, and I'm partway through one of them already, so I was like, I might as well fucking finish it, even though 2020 is over.
I have to finish, like, some of the books I started were for that, and I have to finish them.
But that was our December wrap-up. Sorry, mine was so fucking long. I feel like I talked a lot.
Well, you read 9 books. Like, that's exciting. I think that's great.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. Sorry, mine was so underwhelming, and I only read 2.
Well, at least you liked yours.
I did.
Liked both of yours. I think I might lay off the romance for a little bit because I was really striking out on it.
It sounds like you had really mediocre romance reads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this vegan beer,
it's good.
It's good. It's a good
It's
beer.
really good.
It does have a lot of like sediment.
It does.
So if that's something that bothers you, you might not enjoy that, but
and it's very tropical.
If you don't pour it in a glass, you probably won't even notice.
Yeah, you can just remain oblivious and just drink it. Yeah. No, it's good. I like it.
But it tastes good.
Yeah, it's tasty.
Thanks for watching.
And we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.